Good.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled Finance Committee meeting. It is October 2nd, 2023. I'm Councillor Leonard. I am filling in to chair this meeting. Around the table, we have Councillor Chungel, we have Council Chair Fournier, we have Councillor Pelletier, Councillor Sprague, Councillor Yakubaga, and we have Finance Director David Little. First item on the agenda is going to be a consent agenda, which the first item is a workout agreement for 190 Union Street. David, why don't you take it away?
Yeah. So this is Miss Marshall, Krista Marshall at 190 Union Street. We first entered into workout agreements with her back in 2017. At that time, she owed us approximately $16,000. She has since then complied with and completed a total of 6 agreements. This would have been her last agreement. She was able to pay off all of the taxes that had been past due, but there are some code violations on the property that we'd like to have fixed before we deed it back. She didn't have enough funds to do the code, fix those code issues before the September 15th payment came due. So technically, she's now behind again. So our request is to do another 1-year agreement with her, $600 quarterly payments. That will give her enough time to fix all the code issues, be caught up on her taxes, and we suspect and hope that this will be the last agreement that we meet with her, and she'll be all caught up. Based on her commitment to redeeming the property, staff recommends approval.
Questions or comments?
Staff recommendation.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Hearing no objections or any questions, this will have passage.
Thank you.
Next, we have bids and purchasing.
So our first item is the de-icing stormwater treatment at the airport. This is phase 3. This has been a multi-year project to work on the de-icing stormwater treatment system at the airport. Phases 1 and 2 have been completed. We went out to bid for phase 3. We only received 1 response, which was from Sargent Corporation. Their bid of $373,450 is below the budgeted amount that was approved for this project. They have experience with the particular system that we were talking about. This is rebuilding cell 4 and areas upstream of cells 1 through 3, but they did phase 2, so they're very familiar with the project. Where it is under budget, we're very happy with the work that Sargent has done for us in the past. Staff is looking for the okay to move forward with the contract with Sargent Corporation for $373,450, and this would go to full council next week.
Questions or comments? Councillor.
What did we budget?
We budgeted 400.
Great. Nice to see something come.
Yes, it's nice to see a few come in under budget.
We'll find somewhere to spend this.
Yes, oh, we can easily make that go away
No
somewhere else.
problem, so. I would move that we approve this and move forward.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any other further comments or questions? Seeing none, this will go to full council.
Thank you.
Next, we have sale of city property.
So the city owns a piece of property out on the corner of the Old Bangor Road and Broadway, just over a 1/4 acre. We have no plans to develop the property. It really can't do much with it. What the abutter to the property approached the city and is interested in purchasing the property. We have no objections to that purchase, but our engineering department is recommending that we hold a easement on there in case we ever want to redesign that intersection to make the turn a little bit easier. The abutter is okay with that easement. We talked with the assessing staff to determine what would be a reasonable sale price for the property. And their calculation said that $3,005 would be a reasonable price based on the use of the property, the size of the property, and what anybody may be able to do with it. So we're looking with, you're okay to move forward with the sale of this property to Mr. Dwayne Williams, the budding property owner, for $3,005.
Questions or comments? Council Sprague.
This is a property that abuts the 1 or 2 lot property that's on the planning board agenda for tonight for the construction of two commercial buildings and storage facilities, I believe. I wonder whether the value that's placed on this property was placed on it as a standalone piece, or the value placed on it as it abuts this development of commercial buildings and storage facilities, which is likely to be approved tonight.
It was calculated based upon the purchase of those abutting properties at the time they were bought and the square footage to come up with an average price per square foot and then applied to the usable space of this.
Okay.
So it did not, as far as my understanding is, I don't think it took into consideration future plans for that property.
I don't think we're talking about a lot of dollars difference here. But after tonight and the planning board sending their recommendation to the council, that's going to be a substantial commercial development there. And this abutting property is going to be added to that substantial commercial development. So I would only suggest that its value might be greater than the value that it has already been assessed. I don't think we should hold anything up, but I don't know what to do with my feelings. I just, that's just, I see that as a small issue because of just the coordination of what we're talking about with what the planning board's talking about, the assessor's looking at. Seems like it ought to come.
Any other further comments or questions? Seeing none, do I need a motion for this? Okay,
Sure, move staff recommendation.
Well, second,
all right, moved and seconded, assuming there's no other conversations or questions, this will have passage.
Thank you. And this will go to council next week for disposal of city property.
All right, next item, we have a change in the schedule of fees for inland fisheries and wildlife agent fees.
So this will go to full council next week. And the state law has recently changed, effective on October 25th. The agent fee for certain inland fishery registrations will change from the current $1 and $2 for new registrations that we currently get up to $5 for new or renewal registrations. So this change to the schedule of fees is to add those inland fishery and wildlife fees to the schedule and to flag it as that we can charge to the maximum amount allowed by law. The $1 and $2, I can say for years and years and years has not come close to recouping our costs for doing those transactions. $5 is going to be a little bit better. So our recommendation would be to charge $5. And in the future, if it does increase, to increase our fees to go with that increase. So with your approval, this would go to, again, for full council next week to add those to the schedule of fees and with the stipulation that we match the statutory maximum as the law changes going forward.
All right, questions or comments? Councilor Trumbull?
Yeah, the snowmobile fees registration, those set aside in a separate account. Is that what we use for the donation of the snowmobile club? Or is that?
Yes, we collect the excise tax, which we,
Oh, it's excise tax,
It's
not
excise.
the registration.
it's the registration fee.
Okay.
Excise tax is only on boats.
Okay.
So the snowmobile registration fees, we collect approximately
And
$3,000
that's
a
about
year,
what we-
and then we turn around and give $3,000 a year to the
And
snowmobile.
the ATV fees just go into the general fund?
It's all separated. We
Yeah.
have an agent fee
Yeah.
line that we collect in revenue.
But we
yes,
don't
it's general fund
designate
revenue.
that to any.
No, we do not
on the
designate
revenue and
that.
expense
The,
side.
the boat agent fees or excise tax, the ATVs, it's only the snowmobiles,
Yeah.
which is typical statewide, that those snowmobile registration fees at the municipal level are typically turned back over to the local snowmobile club for grooming the trails and maintaining the trails.
Thank you.
move staff recommendation.
Second,
Moved and seconded, unless there's further discussion, comments or questions, this will have passage. Last item, a resolve appropriating federal seizure fund.
So this is a request from the police department. They're looking to update some of their equipment in the fitness center, specifically 2 treadmills. The treadmills that we have are sort of near the end of life. They're more than 10 years old. They were refurbished units. So the fitness center oversight committee at the police department, they researched a bunch of different options, different models. And they found two that they like to have for replacements. The estimated cost of those together are about $11,000. This was not a budgeted item, so the police department is looking to use the seizure funds. That would be in the federal seizure fund account, which then requires the resolve, which will go next week for first reading. To use $11,000 from that federal seizure trust account to purchase the two treadmills for the police center for $11,000.
Any questions or comments? Counselor Fournier?
How much is in that?
I knew you were gonna ask me that, and I'm like, why did I not look that up? It's well over 100,000. I'm
Yeah.
almost thinking it's close to
I know.
2 in the federal.
I know there was that big settlement we got.
Yes.
couple months ago.
That was my question.
Okay,
As I was reading this, I'm like, oh, I know it's coming.
Move staff recommendation.
Second,
moved and seconded. Unless there's any further discussion or questions, this will have passage.
Thank you. And I will send out the totals for that to everybody.
Unless there are any other items that council would like to bring up to this committee, this will be the end of the committee. Unless there's anything. Yes,
They'll ask this question now, they'll ask the same question for government operations.
Sure.
Dave, we're gonna only have probably one more committee meeting for this council year. I mean, is there anything that this council should deal with in our upcoming committee meeting? Or should definitively go on this year's agenda before we have a new council year?
We are working on that now. It was actually brought up today at staff meeting to make sure that anything we had that should be brought forth to this council, we bring forth to this council. So I'll be going through the things that we need to do to see what we may need to schedule for the next meeting, to be sure that you are the ones that see it.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
all right. With that said, this will be the end of the finance committee. Stay tuned. We will have government operations next.